attack at Devil's Den State Park.
Yeah, welcome
to a press conference.
Our team is, of
Come
course,
on in,
all
folks.
over this right now. There is a news conference that is scheduled for 2 o'clock today at the State Police Headquarters in Little Rock, not in Lowell like it was last night at 9:30, but this time it'll be down in Little Rock. We'll, of course, bring that to you live. This all began last night with a post from a stylist at a salon that thought at the time had taken video or was cutting the hair of the suspect. We went out and visited with her earlier this morning. We're going to hear from her coming up here in just a few minutes and get an insight as to what she was going through last night, especially after she posted that video to her Facebook page.
Yes, and of course, police now have confirmed that they did arrest him at that salon. Here's some of the latest information we have right now. We have the latest mugshot of 28-year-old Andrew McGann.
Look at this guy.
He was arrested around 5 last night at that hair salon in Springdale. He's in the Washington County Jail without bond, facing 2 charges of capital murder. Now, right now, we're learning that he was most recently a teacher in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. He was actually set to start as a teacher at Springdale Public Schools this year. Our reporter Kayla Davis is gathering information right now from the neighborhood where McGann was living, new to the area. She's told us neighbors saw a police presence at his home for several hours last night.
And we can tell you that when she visited the neighborhood, that there was a couple of folks that she was trying to interview. They would not go on camera. That he did live at the address there. Confirmed a huge police presence from 6 o'clock until 11 o'clock last night. And so what we're seeing here is the news video from the salon where the arrest was made last night. Here's what the stylist had to say after what happened last night.
I just want to start off first by saying my condolences to the Brink family. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about them. And they'll always be in my heart to imagine those little girls. When I saw him, he looked pretty normal. Something did feel off about him. I noticed I was in the break room heating up my food for lunch, and I noticed a black car pulled up. The doors open, so I would see who would pull up. I came back up here, and I noticed the guy just standing over here. As soon as I saw him, something fell off about him. He looked pretty scary. He didn't look like he was okay. He was very timid. He was always with his head down, long hair covering his face. But I didn't want to speak up yesterday after seeing the photos because anything can change from when those pictures were taken, and he looked to be a lot slimmer, but as soon as I saw the pictures, I'm like, that's him. He just looked slimmer. Like I said, he was on the run. He probably didn't eat or, took care of himself. He looked pretty confused. I don't know how to describe it. I saw him, his eyes just looked sunken. Pretty kind of like soulless is what I could describe. He didn't want anything cut from the top of his head. He wanted to hide his face. He just wanted a fade on the sides. He didn't really know what he wanted, so I kind of explained to him what kind of haircut would go well with him, with what he had. Yeah, he just didn't want to touch anything from the top. Well, I was about 5 minutes into the haircut when a man pulled up and asking about whose car that was outside. And that's when he would tell him, I believe this is your car. And he just stood quiet. I guess he felt kind of scared.
Can you point it?
As soon as I saw the stickers of, the evidence and stuff, I knew something was wrong. And I asked if it could be related to the Devil's Den incident, and they said it could have been Yeah, it's been overwhelming. I've never been in a situation like this, so I just couldn't stop thinking about the little girls that saw his face. He's pretty scary, dark sunken eyes, but it feels like it's too much. I could only imagine the family, the Brink family, what they're going through. I saw the black car and I saw him. I'm like, okay, a couple things start checking out. But the way that he looked, it's what gave me the chills.
Not reading his name.
Yes, also with not wanting to write his name to sign in. I will say, just anyone take caution. You know, these people can be among us. I would never realize that you could have someone in your chair that has done these horrible things, and just, you know, really be on the lookout and keep an open mind, and, you know, just try and be safe.
My goodness. All right. This is actually a surveillance video of McGann going into the salon.
Yeah,
Look at this guy.
Which
Look.
is interesting that he went to get his hair cut during
Got
this
his hair
time.
cut.
We do know that he was about to start as a teacher at Springdale schools, so maybe was getting a haircut before orientation, which I think was today for teachers, or, you know, like she said, trying to cover his face, maybe a disguise. But this is, video of him inside the salon.
What we don't have just yet, and we're working to get right now, is the arrest. Now, you heard the stylist say that he was there 5, maybe 6 or 7 minutes when someone pulled up and said, "Whose car is this?" And we're waiting to get, right now we're working to get video of the actual arrest itself. And you can, or him in cuffs. Okay, well, we're trying to get the video of him being placed under arrest in handcuffs and then walked out of the building. My goodness, the reaction from her, I can't even imagine what she has been through the last 12 hours or so. I'm pretty sure she didn't wake up yesterday morning and whatever dreamed that she was going to be a part of this national story.
Just a normal day of work for her turning into this. Also seeing that video of her in there.
There he is.
Herself.
And here's the video of him actually being arrested. And I'm assuming this is state police or Washington County Sheriff's deputies that have come into that salon and then put McGann under arrest. And he'll be you'll see him being taken out. Of course, it doesn't show a lot of emotion here. It doesn't show a lot of no resistance at all.
She said in her Facebook post too that, well, as she said in the interview as well, it was just a few minutes in, and when they came in, he seemed to know why they were there. He didn't resist or have any questions for them.
We're going to work on getting some more of this video as well. We're also trying to get some video as well of of him going into the Washington County Jail, being the intake in the Washington County Jail. Let's talk about, if we can. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. And so Bo Russell's been doing this since day one.
Yeah, Saturday.
That's and so seeing all this, seeing it wrapping up at least to this point.
Right. I mean, I think it's an emotional time, right? And law enforcement alluded to that last night. I think a lot of law enforcement took this personally. You know, people have talked about Devil's Den, and especially in the state of Arkansas, we take our park seriously. We're the natural state, right? And so they hit a place that was, a lot of people felt safe going on hikes. We've seen on Facebook and social media people saying, "Oh, I've been there all the time. I've never felt unsafe," And so, this has been called, we spoke with the West Fork police chief who said this was such a senseless crime, right? And I think that's what really hit home and had people, as the days went on, become more worried, right? I was worried, being out there, not knowing who was behind this and wondering why there was so little information coming out. Now we know law enforcement probably had more information than they were letting on, so that they could apprehend this guy without maybe scaring him off, And something we just saw in that video that, is really surprising is just how calm he looked.
Yeah.
He did not look like a guy who expected he was going to get arrested there in that barbershop. So I think, right now, it's kind of a 50-50. People are so happy that this guy's caught, but also two little girls lost their parents, and it's a horrible situation. So, there's still a lot of questions. What was the motive behind this? Why did he get out there? And so hopefully we're going to get some more of that information.
Let's talk about that
press conference coming up.
A news conference at 2:00 today that, of course, we'll carry right here on 5 News Plus and also on Channel 5. I think we're all wanting to know a little bit more than what they released yesterday. And I get that there was limited information last night. They've had now 12 hours to process this. I'm hoping that we find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as, we're hearing he's worked at other schools in the past, and he was supposed to start working out of school today. I mean, thank goodness they caught him yesterday and he didn't get a chance to start work. But yeah, so I think we want to know, did people feel weird about this guy? Were there signs leading up to this? What are kind of the protocols when hiring teachers? These are all questions I think people are asking, and it's worrisome, so that's where I think we're at.
And we do know, I guess, that he had taught at least 2 schools.
Sand Springs and Broken Arrow,
and then
Oklahoma,
a school in Texas as well, and moved here from Oklahoma recently to which the victims had also moved here recently. So the whole situation, there's just a lot of questions surrounding this. And you were at the press conference last night where they said they probably won't release a lot about the motive until they're still investigating that. So.
That's right. Yeah, we're probably not going to hear a lot about the motive today. We might, we don't know. But I think we can start putting some pieces together, right? He's working out of school. In the first release that was sent to us from Arkansas State Police with a quote from the family, they said that Clinton and Cristen were heroes who died protecting their 2 little girls, right? So I think we can start putting pieces together. But again, we're not going to have anything official that we can report on until law enforcement does provide that.
I'm assuming that at 2:00 we're going to hear more about how the arrest came about.
Exactly.
If it was by chance that a law enforcement officer was just happened to be driving by that barbershop, or did they get a tip from somebody saying, "Hey, I think that car is around the corner down here. Send somebody around and have a look." I'm hoping that part is revealed today, as well as to how this arrest actually came about.
No, and that's a great point. And law enforcement said yesterday that, tips from the public played such a huge role in this and how much information was brought. So I think, law enforcement is very happy with their work. I think they're happy with the public work too. I think sending in tips to law enforcement is so important, not as much posting it online, but sending it straight to them. And I think that really helped in leading to an arrest here.
We did just receive something from Lewisville, this is Texas, I believe. It was, North Texas, but it was just basically a press release from them to their students, teachers, community about, they say, the arrest of a former teacher who was at Donald Elementary during the 2022-23 school year, which we believe that this was kind of his first job after graduating from college, and then had the job in Oklahoma right before moving here.
Obviously didn't stay at one place very long.
Yes.
Maybe at the most a year, maybe 2 years at one of these places, but or a year, maybe even less than that. So.
And the Springdale School District also, it's important to note that he had no contact with, thankfully, students or anyone in the school community. But again, I think today would have been the day when the teachers get together for Springdale. So it's interesting that he would have been there if he hadn't been arrested yesterday.
Yeah. All right, Bo, don't go anywhere. We'll probably come back to you in just a little bit. We do want to hear more about McGann's past. 5 News reporter Emily Moss has spent the day looking into his past.
We did that too.
McGann
Oklahoma,
Texas, and Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. CBS News has confirmed he was most recently a teacher in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, and he was set to start at Springdale Public Schools this year, which just starts in a few weeks. The 28-year-old just moved to the area. His licenses are for elementary and middle school, and he's taught math, science, writing, and general education in the past. The Springdale superintendent sent a statement to the newsroom confirming that McGann was hired to work there this year. However, he also confirms that McGann has had no contact with families or students this year so far. We have not learned any new information for what McGann's motive could have been, or if he has any connection to the Brink family. During the state's press conference, Arkansas State Police called McGann a monster and got visibly emotional.
Because of their hard work and investigative skill, we were able to take a monster off the streets and bring relief to Clinton and Kristen's precious girls.
Some new information today. CBS News also confirming during McGann's first year of teaching in Flower Mound, Texas, he was put on administrative leave for an investigation into his professionalism. The district says he resigned from that position. We also know that McGann taught at Broken Arrow Public Schools for the 2023-2024 school year. Back to you.
All right, Emily, thanks again. Just some scary moments when you think how close he became or close he came to starting a job at the Springdale School District.
And that he felt confident enough, again, walking around, going in, just in public places like this as well.
All right, McGann is accused of killing 41-year-old Cristen Brink and 43-year-old Clinton Brink. The couple, as we all know, hiking on that trail at Devil's Den with their 2 daughters. Now, the children, thankfully, were not physically hurt. You heard Colonel Mike Hager last night becoming emotional when he was talking about the 2 daughters that survived that attack. We also learned the family had recently moved to Prairie Grove. Clinton had been transferred from South Dakota. He actually was supposed to start on Monday of this week at his new job in Fayetteville for Highland Dairy.
Yeah, delivering milk around the area.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a verified GoFundMe has raised more than $37,000 for the family. That number's gone way up even since yesterday.
Yes.
The family member who started the fundraiser says, quote, "We are kindly asking if you can please help us raise funds to lay Clinton and Cristen to rest and to help their 2 little girls with whatever they may need. And whatever you can donate will be greatly appreciated by their entire family as they navigate the grief, devastation, and shock of the tragedy." Now, you can find a link to this GoFundMe on our website, 5newsonline.com.
So again, what we hope to learn today with this news conference at 2 o'clock, and again, we'll have it here on 5 News Plus and on Channel 5 and our website as well. I hope to learn more about the part of the investigation that led to the arrest last night. If there is going to be a motive, they said last night there probably won't be for a while, but maybe they could have a motive today. And was this a random attack?
Right. And also the press release that we got said that the press conference is going to be about the arrest. So we don't know if that means literally about the arrest itself or if that just means more about this whole situation.
Right.
So we'll have to see but there's lots of questions still to be answered about all of this.
Yeah, exactly. And we've showed this to you a little bit ago, but there's video of actually McGann showing up at this barbershop yesterday afternoon, or not quite exactly sure what time. The arrest was made around 5 o'clock. So this could have been around 4:30 or so, walking into that salon. You see the stylist there you heard a minute ago, who she said, it struck me. She said she just had a weird feeling about when he walked in, wouldn't sign in his name when he registered to get his haircut. Didn't want anything else. You see him pointing there. Didn't want any other kind of haircut except for around the edges, and you can see him kind of talking about it there. And that was it. He was calm. He was collected. He was cool. Really didn't give her any indication that he was on the run for committing a crime. And then not too long after, this is the scene of when deputies arrived to place McGann under arrest inside the salon there in Springdale, and they lead him out. We're working on getting the video of him being let out, and also a video of him being processed in the Washington County Jail. And again, strikes me how calm and collected he is. Didn't put up any resistance. Didn't look like he says hardly anything here, and pretty much walks out with the deputies.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, it strikes me how quiet and empty it looks in there, and how she must have felt. Looks like she was the only person in that room with him, and then the police come in. I mean, again, it's just not the place probably that anyone would have expected they would catch the suspect would be at a salon in Springdale.
Well, you would think on something like this that he would have fled the scene and not made himself present in this area. But I also think that since he was just now being hired at Springdale, and if they were supposed to start today, he didn't want to strike up any suspicion by not showing up to work on his first day. Turns out somebody saw him, somebody saw the car parked out in front of that salon. It was either a law enforcement officer or someone who said, you know what, that looks really familiar, or that looks like that's the suspect's car. Maybe I need to call police. And it wasn't long after that there was this swarm of officers at this salon. And a few minutes later, McGann is under arrest.
Yeah, and Arkansas State Police last night, one of the main things that they talked about was the lack of information that they provided, and how a lot of times when they're doing investigations like this, they intentionally release certain things, holding back a lot because they don't want the suspect to realize that they're onto them and go into hiding. And as we've talked about, clearly he was not going into hiding. So that must have worked. I guess.
Well, it's just also one of those that any kind of an investigation like this, and I've been doing this for so long that no police department has ever come out and says, here's what we have,
Right.
Here's everything we have. And it's obviously you can't do that. And at the same time, I think in this situation, with where this crime took place, in broad daylight, with a whole lot of people around, there was this questioning of, are we safe to go to the park? Are we safe to go hiking anywhere? Are we safe to walk any trails right now? And not having that information provided, I think, was just a little bit a reason why maybe folks were getting a little on edge about, all right, what are we supposed to be doing now? We need to hear from you. Tell us it's okay to go out. It's okay to go hike. It's okay to have a picnic. It's okay to go fishing or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was part of a little bit of frustration on folks' mind that they weren't being told any of that. Well, now we know why. Now we know that they didn't want to release. They probably had all kinds of pictures. They put out that about the wanting pictures and video. If you were along that, I bet they got a bunch of pictures.
Oh, yeah, thousands.
And did not want to put any of that out to lead him on or to let him know that they were on to him.
And so we heard from those investigators last night, and let's go ahead and take a listen back to what they said last night.
He just recently moved here and had gotten a job to work at a local school here.
Do you know where he moved from?
I believe it was Oklahoma. The community deserves to know
Broken Arrow.
and what led to that arrest, and we'll be happy to share that when the time is right.
What you're looking at now is the state police headquarters. This is in Little Rock. We have our station in Little Rock that is providing this feed to us. We expect we're hoping in about 5 or 6 minutes. Well, this might be a mic check. He's checking a mic. He's doing a mic check. Live TV at its best right here, folks. And so what we're looking at here is the podium again that will have, I'm assuming, Colonel Mike Hager and some other folks with state police, and maybe some other law enforcement agencies that were in part of it. And that's the other thing we heard last night. The governor, when she was in Lowell last night, was praising not only state police, local law enforcement, game and fish, state parks department. We heard how they all teamed together and came together for this, spending a lot of hours. I think one of them said there's a lot of guys with scruffy beards and haven't eaten in a long time. Yeah. So that's the one thing about this. This is an amazing coordinated effort into finding this suspect in a double murder that really has become now a worldwide story.
Oh, yes. It's lots of national attention and people from all over the world talking about this. And again, we don't know exactly what answers we're going to get from this press conference. Some of the questions we still have unanswered are that we know we aren't going to get the answer to very soon are, again, the motive. The cause of death hasn't even been confirmed by police yet.
Yeah, I was just looking at email just to see if we gotten anything from state police. They sent out an email yesterday notifying us of the news conference with some information, and I was thinking they may send something out, but we may just have to wait and see what they say at 2:00 this afternoon, here in about 5 minutes or so. So what we're waiting for, news conference 2:00 in Little Rock, state police headquarters, assuming Colonel Mike Hager will be there along with other law enforcement agencies that will be conducting this news conference and giving us what they say is new information about the arrest. We have seen a couple of mugshots that have been released from Washington County when he was arrested last night and booked into the county jail. We are actually working to get that video of him being brought in and processed at the Washington County jail. Hopefully have that for you this afternoon on your 5 News First at 4. And we have all of our reporters working on this. We have different angles. Kayla Davis in the neighborhood where he lived. You heard from the stylist there at the salon who actually pretty much tipped off and got this whole thing started about him being at her place. We're going to hear more from her.
Oh, this is the intake
this is the
video
intake.
we were waiting
Okay.
on. Yeah,
Oh,
a little
there, yeah,
hard
you
to
can
see.
see it. Him walking in the blue shirt.
And
Got
this is
arrested while getting a haircut.
Washington County Jail. He's in the blue shirt there. This is obviously a camera that is above and it shows the entire room, but you can see him there at the bottom right-hand side being searched, still with handcuffs, wearing the shirt that he was wearing at the salon. This was probably, I don't know, just a few minutes after his arrest, and he was let off from the salon to the Washington County Jail. We have been told that he is still in the jail. He is not obviously being released because there's no bond set in this case. And I believe he is going to be his first court appearance tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
tomorrow morning.
Early tomorrow
tomorrow
morning. Okay.
We'll be covering
we
that.
will be there, of course.
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
have more updates from that as well. Still a lot to learn about his background. It's very interesting. I think another thing that's shocking is that he was a teacher. That there's just a lot more to learn about all of this, where he was from, where he had worked. I'm hearing that we have some new information.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Mike Hager, Director of the Arkansas State Police and Secretary, Department of Public Safety. Coming out this afternoon, we're going to just kind of go through some bullet point information, and I'm sure it's going to spawn a lot of questions. We're going to try to answer as many of those questions as we can. I want to introduce our partners. Well, actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we do have our two deputy directors, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Kennedy and Lieutenant Colonel Jason Aaron, that are with us, and I believe the rest of the people behind me will speak, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I want to start by thanking our investigators. It's hard to express the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into an investigation like this. You could see it on their face when we walked into headquarters last night, had the opportunity to see them, talk to them, thank them in person at the culmination of this. They're absolutely exhausted. They put every bit of their heart and soul into this investigation to get this suspect brought into custody and taken off the streets. And I cannot thank them enough for that. Also want to thank our law enforcement partners. We are truly blessed in Arkansas. It's not always common, and that's unfortunate, but we have a relationship with our state, local, and federal counterparts that's second to none. There was an incredible amount of cooperation and collaboration that went into this investigation. No part is less than any other's part. There's a total package that has to be looked at, has to be investigated, and these groups work together in a very impressive way, and we can't thank them enough. Not just on this case, but in every case that we work within state police, to have that partnership with them is really valuable. I want to thank the public for providing images and videos from cell phones, home, and business security footage that directly advanced this investigation. We'll talk a little bit more about how that played out, but the information that was put out and the request for information back from the public directly resulted in this person being brought into custody. It allowed our investigators a starting point to move forward and to use their skills that they've developed over the years and their experience to bring this person into custody. We had about 500 tips that came in through our phone lines, social media. Not only were there a lot of tips that came in, and we're very thankful for that, but there's a lot of people that have to field those tips. And it's not all badge-wearing, gun-toting members of the state police or Department of Public Safety. We had a lot of civilian personnel that were tasked with that. There was a lot of time and energy spent on triaging those tips and making sure they went to the right people. And so we owe a great gratitude for that support staff that helped with this as well. Although everyone is innocent until proven guilty, we did confirm this morning that our suspect's DNA has been a positive match to the DNA that we suspected to belong to our suspect at the scene. During an interview with investigators, the suspect indicated that he did commit these murders. We executed a search warrant at his residence. There were articles found there that are consistent with being involved in this particular crime. And I will let Major Rhodes speak more of that or more to those details. We do believe he acted alone. We have absolutely no reason to believe that there's anyone else involved, and we do not anticipate any future arrest or any other arrests beyond this suspect. I'm going to go ahead and pass off to Major Stacy Rhodes. She can walk through a little bit more of the information, and I'll return to the podium and we'll answer any questions we can.
Well, good afternoon. As he indicated, I'm Major Stacy Rhodes. I oversee the Criminal Investigation Division for the State Police. And I kind of want to walk you through how we initiated and progressed through our investigation. So, as you all know, we responded to a call for service at the state parks. Two young children were found and indicated that something had happened to their parents on the trail. That initial information that came from the kids gave us our first starting point, which was a description of a suspect. There was another witness at the park that we encountered that gave us additional information about the suspect and a particular vehicle that he was seen leaving the park. With that, we took the information, completed and let me kind of, we'll start there. So from there, we had a pretty good description of our suspect. We did our initial release. Other witnesses came forward that were on the trail during the time that the murders occurred that did not see the murders, but brought forth video footage, photographs that they had taken on their day trip to the park. From that, we obtained a photo. We interviewed witnesses and were able to compile a composite sketch of what we believed our suspect looked like. With that, we received dozens and dozens of tips. With the initial vehicle information that we received, it being a black sedan, one of the initial descriptions was that it was sporty. From that, we received well over 5 or 6, maybe close to 10 videos of this particular car from homes and businesses along the routes in and out of the park. So we were able to ascertain a pretty good description of this vehicle. So with that vehicle information, that became critical in identifying our suspect. So with the photos or the tips that came in with the composite and the photo, as the Colonel said, we received over 500 tips. And initially we were using the names and information to come out to compare with, did they have black vehicles? Did they meet a certain criteria of vehicles? But as we began to hone in on the vehicle, it became clear that it was a Kia Stinger. And we used that information to vet various owners, and our suspect was identified. And with that, we sought him out and we located him at a local barber shop there in Springdale. We took him into custody. And with that, we spoke to him and he made statements indicating that he had committed these heinous acts. And our job didn't stop there. We executed a search warrant on his house and also on the vehicle. We are still waiting a lot of testing at the crime lab. But as the Colonel said, DNA that was recovered at the initial crime scene matched his DNA that we pulled last night.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Carter. I'm the prosecuting attorney for Washington County, Arkansas. The first thing I want to say here today is that my thoughts are with the Brinks family. there are 3 girls who tragically lost their parents in this case. And although today is a good day for law enforcement, there's a shadow over it because of the tragedy that occurred on Saturday. I want to commend the state police for the work they did in this case. I couldn't be more proud to be an Arkansan today. I couldn't be more proud to be a resident of Northwest Arkansas right now, and am confident and satisfied with the work that law enforcement did in this case. Especially, I want to note the cooperation I saw between local agencies in this case. I could name them all off, but I have a list here of 7 to 9 agencies that worked hand in hand to quickly solve this crime. And I commend every law enforcement officer that worked on this case. I also commend any member of the public that provided us information that led to the solving of this crime. I want the public to know that they're safe. The defendant in this case is innocent until he's proven guilty. But I'm confident that we have the right defendant in this case and that the public need not worry going forward. Someday they're going to open Devil's Den State Park, and I'll be on the trail myself when that happens. The defendant will be spending time in Washington County Circuit Court over the course of the coming days. It is my intention to use the full weight of my office to bring this defendant to justice for the Brinks family.
Before we open for questions, just want to touch real briefly on something that gets lost in this sometimes, and that's the family story. We've spoken to the family quite a few times over the last several days, and what we heard consistently is what a loving mother and father they were, loving husband and wife that they were towards each other. They absolutely protected those girls to their fullest extent, to the point that it cost them their lives. We're in awe of this mom and dad. We're also in awe of these girls. The information that they were able to provide to start us down this path to be able to make this arrest, it all started with those 2 little girls. It's incredible. We also don't want to forget that there was a 3rd sister. Thankfully, she was not with the family on the trail that day, but she suffered just as tragic of a loss, and we need to keep that in mind. Because of that, I would plead with you and the public to please be sensitive to the fact that there's a family that's grieving. It's hard to express because I can't understand it, what they're going through. Misinformation hurts. Speculation hurts. When they read things, when we talked to them earlier today, they expressed that to us, that they're reading things in social media, they're reading things that are just simply not true. And people are speculating, they're talking about things that are not factual, and it hurts. There's no place for that. Along those lines, we have to be very careful in an investigation to be calculated in the amount of information that we put out and when we put that out. I can tell you that this investigative team had one mission and one mission only, and that was to put hands on this suspect and to get him off the streets. And on a daily basis, we got together and we talked about what we felt like that we could put out to the public and what was going to be advantageous for us in the investigation and what could potentially be detrimental. One thing that we did not want to do is put information out that was going to take attention away from someone that we needed to look at. You have to remember all the information that we're working off of started with 2 little girls that witnessed the most horrific thing that you could ever imagine. That was the base of everything that we had. So we had to be careful about relying solely on that information. We had to collaborate that. We're also working in an environment that is half a mile into the woods. So by the time that we get the information from these little girls, and then we collaborate that with members from the public. They can talk, or they can, give us further information based on the suspect description and things like that. And then that leads us to a vehicle, and then that leads us somewhere else. This is not an episode of CSI. And it's not going to be wrapped up in a 1-hour episode. It takes hours and hours to develop that information, corroborate that information, and know that it's good information, and know that it's something that we can put out. The last thing that we want to be responsible for is putting information out that's going to hinder the investigation or hinder someone's their likelihood of calling us and putting us onto a suspect that we need to be looking at, because it didn't meet all the markers that we thought it should meet. So I hope you can be understanding of that, and I hope as we move forward from here that the speculation and a lot of the talk and a lot of the chatter, especially on social media, that people will be very sensitive to that. This family's been through enough, and they don't deserve to be victimized any further than they already are. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Colonel, can you elaborate more on what was the reason behind this? What was the motive for this? Was this
Motive?
What happened there? And
You could stop the speculation. What's the motive?
How were they killed?
As far as the motive is concerned, it's part of the investigation. It's two parts. The first part of the investigation is always going to be to identify and apprehend the suspect. The second part of the investigation is a lot of the whys and a lot of the details. That's still a part of the investigation. I can tell you that we have no reason to believe that there was any known association between our suspect and our victims. There's nothing to indicate that at all. It appears to be a completely random event. As far as the weapon that was used, it was a knife.
Knife.
Our victims died by stab wounds. Yes,
They were stabbed.
We've spoken to a few parents from students who he was their teacher in different states, and they all kind of gave this synopsis of perhaps he was a predator. Their children felt like he preyed on younger age girls during his time teaching in those states. We were wondering, have you been exploring any connections to the crimes that McGann may have been connected with, and any indication that this was his first time committing this? Was he after those girls? Were those his target?
From what we know right now, we have no indication to suggest that the girls were his target.
Oh. So that's interesting. So then where does that leave us?
One time that day, I heard potentially somebody suspicious could have been there the weekend before. Was he just that first time at the park, or do you think he was laying out and calculating?
Honestly, that would be pure speculation on my part. Now that we have our suspect in custody, there's going to be a part of the investigation that's going to go back, and they're going to look at timelines, and they're going to look at kind of his movements leading up to that. And hopefully that will give us all a better picture of why he did this, how long he had planned this, things like that. But right now, that's all part of the investigation. It would simply be speculation on our part.
I believe he was injured as well. Can you elaborate on that? During the attacks?
Yes, he was injured. I do not know the specifics of those injuries. I do know that his injuries resulted in blood loss, and it was that blood loss that allowed us to establish a DNA profile to begin with, and it was that DNA profile that was matched today against our suspect.
I would assume that's any loving parent trying to do whatever they could to protect their loved ones.
Absolutely. I would say you're correct. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned some articles found in the house. What was found?
So if you'll remember the photo that was of the back of our suspect, we did find items that were consistent with what was seen in that photograph.
Was the weapon there?
Well, we don't know that it's the weapon, but we did collect some knives from the residence. We won't know until we test it, obviously.
the arrest itself, did he resist? Was he easygoing? What did that look like?
No, he was completely cooperative.
Can you speak on the terrain, the area that the victims were found in regards to the girls getting to safety to get help? What kind of time frame that would look like for two girls? Was it a rough terrain? Was it something that, another person found them within an hour, or can you speak on that?
So I don't know that we can speak on to the time frame, but the terrain was what you would see in a typical park. I don't know that it was particularly rugged, but it had some inclines. It was fairly maintained, but it was, our estimation was about a half a mile into the park. So you can imagine how long that would take to get out.
One more question. We had heard reports. Can you confirm that the father was stabbed first, the mother took the kids back into the car for safety, went back to help her husband, and then she
The
died?
visitor center.
So the information that we have is that the husband was attacked first. The mother did not return all the way to the car with the kids. We believe that the mother took them to safety and then returned to help her husband.
I know you all said that the suspect, I believe, indicated that he had committed these acts. Any more specifics on what he may have said since his arrest?
We're not going to comment on that at this point. It wouldn't be fair to the continuing investigation.
And then I assume this would be for maybe more the prosecuting attorney, but do you know yet if you'll pursue the death penalty in this case, or what kind of consequences you might see?
This case certainly has the aggravators that exist where a jury should get to decide what the punishment for this defendant is. It is my intention to pose that to a jury. So the state will not be waiving the death penalty in this case. I'm not going to comment on that.
Did he indicate he plans to plead guilty to this?
Defendant's innocent until proven guilty at arraignment. I anticipate he will plead not guilty, as is custom. I don't know that there's a defense attorney in the United States of America that would allow a defendant to appear at their first appearance and plead guilty. So it is much, much too early to visit about that.
Has he indicated he's going to seek a public defender, has a private attorney or anything like that?
I'm not aware that a private attorney has been retained yet. If he can't afford a private attorney, I anticipate our local public defender's office will be appointed.
I know that y'all spoke that Devil's Den will be closed for the time being, but what about other state parks and the concerns of family and tourists?
Yeah, as far as the question of the state parks being open, I would ask that you send that to Secretary Shea Lewis and his team. I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know what the decision is on that at this point. As far as the safety of our public visiting those state parks, I would say it's absolute as it can be. I mean, it's not like we have a pattern of people being assaulted or attacked in our state parks. You're probably much more likely to be assaulted getting gas at a convenience store on the way home if you look at statistics. So to echo the prosecutor's comments, I would not hesitate to go to a state park today.
I know you're still looking into it, Stacy, but have you found any more information about background? We were last night, you recently moved to the Springdale area. Do you have more information to share? And just employed by the Springdale School District, what else can you tell us?
So, I don't have a whole lot. Some of that we will look into. I can just tell you that we found that he lived in Texas and also Oklahoma and had recently moved here and had taken employment as a teacher. It doesn't sound like he was ever an actual teacher in Arkansas, but that he was a teacher in other locations. Right now we're completely focused on our case here, and we haven't explored any of that background investigation. I fully expect that other jurisdictions will probably reach out to us to see if they have any, if there are cases throughout the U.S. that may be connected to him. I fully expect that.
As of right now,
Unsolved crimes.
not suspecting any other incidences here in our area.
That's correct. Not that we've been made aware of. That's for sure.
Recently, moved here a few weeks ago, a few months.
I believe it's been a few months. Yes, sir.
Major, can you clarify? You say you made statements indicating that he had killed them. Did he flat out confess, or what exactly did he say?
So I was not actually in the room when he was confession. So I'm not going to speak to, I certainly don't want to get that wrong, but just know that he did indicate that he had committed the murders.
Would you call it a confession, or you don't know for sure?
I would call it an admission.
Does the suspect have any sort of criminal history that you all know of?
No, he did not. Not any adult criminal history that we've been able to find, for sure.
Did he indicate why Springdale's not that far from the state park? Any indication why he, for 5 days, stayed so close to the scene, or was he planning on fleeing the area or the state at some point?
There was no indication that he was going to flee the area. He actually had a residence in Springdale, so that's why he was in the area. But he gave it doesn't sound like he was making any attempts to conceal. He didn't conceal his car or any of those things. Yes, ma'am.
Any history of mental illness?
Not that we know. We're still exploring. We just took him into custody last night, so we're still vetting a lot of the information that we don't know about him to this point.
How did police pinpoint him at the barbershop?
Good old-fashioned police work.
Was there any technology used or that aided in the investigation?
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, were there any license plate readers or anything that gave a tip to where he was at that point in time?
I'll just say this, that there's rarely a case that we work that doesn't include those types of things. So we used everything. When I say that it was all hands on deck and there was no stone left unturned, it involved all of those technological aspects.
With the high volume of tips that came in, can you elaborate on how you sort of knew which ones to look into?
So we had a really good filtering system, and we are aware initially there were some issues with tips and the phone system that we had in place at that time. Once we implemented the tips line, we had a team around the clock filtering through those, and we had a pretty good matrix of the ones that we would push to the top and the ones that we would term a lower priority. So it's, but most of, if we got indication that it involved video, photographs, a first-hand account at the park, those were our priorities.
I understand that every case is different. For many years investigated the worst crimes. This typical, a random crime like this, and a person goes back and gets a haircut and same car.
Nothing about this case is what I would call conventional. In my 27 years that I've been with the state police, this is probably one of the most heinous that we've had, especially the aspect of just how random it was. It's when we were talking last night in the command center that it was every agent's worst nightmare. Because in a typical investigation, we use what we call victimology. And you can usually kind of pinpoint something that a victim has done or the circumstances they're in, whether, it's a domestic violence or just drug related. You can typically narrow down your suspect pool. We had no way to do that in this case. So it made it particularly difficult, and what makes the work by our agents so extraordinary. Yes,
Was
ma'am.
the suspect trying to change his identity at all?
We don't have any indication that he was doing that. He was obviously getting a haircut. but you could chalk that up to school starts next week. So, but he didn't indicate he was trying to alter, that I'm aware of, that he was trying to alter his act.
And you all mentioned that he was cooperative when you got to the barber shop. Any other initial reaction from him when you all showed up? Anything you could tell us?
That's probably best that I not discuss that so early in the investigation to this point.
Can you speak on the role of social media in helping bring about the rest of the suspect?
I will say that social media did nothing to help our investigation. I would say that it absolutely hindered our investigation. As you heard the Colonel mention, the hurt and the hurt and the just the emotional toil that social media gave to that family. It's so easy to be that keyboard warrior and question everything that law enforcement is doing. And I would just simply say that let us do our job. If you've got a tip, give it to us. Don't spread it on social media unless you're an expert. And if you're an expert, you're probably not on social media.
One of the first details that you all put out about the car was there was tape covering the license plate. Was that the case with his vehicle, and any reason why? Was he trying intentionally to cover up the license plate?
Yes, he did use tape to conceal some of the things that would help identify his vehicle.
Does that lead you to believe at all that he's done this before?
There are indications. I mean, you know, everyone speculates that he took there was a lot of thought that went into this to conceal his identity. I will say that, but on the other side of that, he was also very sloppy. So whether he committed something else, we don't know, but we are certainly going to explore that.
How long between when you determined that he was the suspect that you were looking for and when you made the arrest? How long did that take?
Within the hour.
Oh. Between when he began questioning until he confessed.
I don't know that. I'm sorry.
I think we're just going to take a couple more questions. Anyone else?
Can you speak on which agencies and how many officers that were involved?
Oh, so in any agency that I missed, the Colonel may have included this. I can tell you that the FBI was instrumental, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, the Fayetteville Police Department, just about every agency up there, the Benton County Sheriff's Office with their flock cameras, the Park Service, the Game and Fish. Who am I leaving out? Springdale, absolutely instrumental. They had a detective embedded with us from the very beginning, and just dozens of detectives that were all hands on deck, working round the clock to make sure that we made an arrest. The community deserved that, and that's what we gave them.
And moving forward, the different agencies in supporting these kids, loss of both of their parents, if there's anything that you want to touch on about it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I said moving forward and supporting the kids after the loss of their parents, like if there's anything that you want to say on that with the different agencies that were involved.
I'm not sure if I understood the question exactly, but I can tell you that Governor Sanders has been in contact with the family multiple times. She's expressed the absolute heartbreak of the state, the support and the prayers that that family will receive, not only from her and her family, but from the state of Arkansas. In addition to that, she's made available any resource that family needs during this recovery process from state agencies, whether that be law enforcement or other type of support agencies. I can also tell you from someone myself that has spoken with the family multiple times, they're an incredibly strong family, and they have a very, very strong family support in place. I have no doubt that those three girls are going to be well taken care of, and they're going to get everything they need from that family. And they also know that if they have a need that we can assist with, we being the state of Arkansas, any type of state public entity, then we will absolutely do that.
Lastly, I know while the investigation is ongoing, you're conducting an internal review and we'll see things we've done better. We'll call transfers and information being released. Am I correct? Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, we will always, after any significant incident, we'll debrief it and we'll look at what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could do better. I can tell you from our vantage point right now, it's hard for me to be critical of anything that our investigators did. They have, you know this, I know these guys, I know our capabilities, but you forget, honestly, until you see it play out, you see the level of expertise and skill. Cannot say enough about our investigators and, not only the skill set that they use to bring this suspect to justice, but just they put everything into it, their heart and soul. I mean, it was an impressive thing to watch. And so of what we could do better, I'm sure there'll be things, y'all heard me say it before, our agency is comprised of human beings and we're always going to make mistakes. And there's going to be things that we can fine tune, but from my vantage point right now, I have nothing but gratitude and respect for our investigators and the way this was handled.
Colonel, one more question. Can you confirm when you spoke to him after the arrest that this was not, he didn't know them, he didn't know the family at all, this was just a pure accidental coincidence that he targeted them?
I can confirm that, and again, as Major Rose said, I was not present for the interview and I've not listened to the interview yet. But I can confirm that we have absolutely no indication, no reason whatsoever to believe that there was any connection at all between our suspect and our victims.
Okay, can you elaborate on the role that the FBI and federal law enforcement helped in the investigation?
Yeah, so the first thing I can tell you is how blessed we are with their partnership. The prosecutor and the major both mentioned all the agencies that were involved. What's always nice about that is they don't wait on us to call them. As soon as this was known, as soon as it was made public, honestly, I don't know how they found out as quick as they did. My phone started ringing off the wall from our special agent in charge of FBI in Little Rock, from the sheriffs in the northwest part of Arkansas, the police chiefs in that area, HSI, you name it, just about every agency that you can think of immediately reached out to us for any support that we needed. I cannot specifically tell you what roles they played, but I can tell you that they played significant roles. There was, as the Major alluded to, there's part of the investigation that is looking at this from the standpoint that it's completely random. There's another part of the investigation that has to close the loophole of, is there a connection at all between our suspects and our victims? And unfortunately, in this case, our victims had recently moved here. Their origins are from California. They, I believe, lived in North Dakota most recently. So there's a lot of geographical space and a lot of people that had to be talked to. And we leaned heavily on our, not only our state and local partners, but other state and local, and absolutely our federal partners.
I'm just curious about the communication challenges out there. I know we can't get cell service when we go out there.
Right.
How much did that affect the response, and how did that affect the investigation?
Yes. The answer to that question is yes. It was very challenging. The fact that we did not have cell service and our investigators didn't have cell service, that other campers on the trail didn't. So, again, it kind of goes back to the type of information that was coming in, the amount of information that was coming in, and the time lapse of the information that was coming in. It all factored in. To say this is an unusual crime scene, unusual crime in just about every aspect, it was extremely challenging. And all of those things came into play, from lack of cell service to the terrain itself.
One more, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yes, ma'am.
Are the kids enrolled in anywhere near the school that he was going to teach?
All right, we're on. They spun it. They were asking one more question. Let's see if it comes back. Ladies and gentlemen, so one thing that stuck out to me was confession. And he made a confession, and also DNA found at the scene, and also the photograph centered around him, too, was found inside his home. Crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy stuff. I think they're done with the questioning. We'll just make sure here. But yeah, the Devil's Den murder. This case is closed, folks. It's closed. Though I would like to know more about the motive here and why he did this. It doesn't appear the kids were the motive, because a lot of people say, well, he was targeting those 2 9 and 7-year-olds out on the trail. But it seems like this deranged lunatic here just went straight at the father. But as we previously reported, and they kind of validated that today, as we got information before, that husband stabbed, wife and the children flee. They go to safety. We were told a visitor center. She went back to go check up on her husband with the children left behind. And then because she's a nurse, she does nursing stuff. And then she gets attacked at the scene. And the kids heard the screams in the distance. By the time law enforcement got there, he was long gone. Looks like he has a Kia. Looks like he has a Kia Stinger, and it looks like he got tracked down via the Stinger. And that's something law enforcement does, in particular makes and models of vehicles. We covered Brian Kohlberger case. They're looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. They expand out and see how many people in this area within a 50-mile radius has a black certain make and model of a vehicle. And that's how it appears they got him. That's the way I listen to it. And then ultimately detective work, whatnot. DNA is DNA, matched to the scene. Confession. It's over, folks. He has no choice but to plead guilty. Now, if he pleads guilty, he probably won't get the death penalty. This is definitely a death penalty case, for sure. But yeah, we still don't know motive. There's stuff out there. Seems like law enforcement there wasn't too happy with social media. I know last night they emphasized and they put out a particular podcaster that was putting a lot of information out, but they're not, sometimes with these cases, the social media is a gift and a curse. It's good. Sometimes it's not. Depends how it's used. But people generally want to know what happened here. This guy here, school teacher, was about to start. He just got hired for the Springdale Public Schools. And he previously came from Texas. There was allegations against him in Texas, in Flower Mound, Texas, at the Lewisville Independent School District. He was placed on administrative leave following concerns related to classroom management, professional judgment, and student favorism. Now, they don't say anything about inappropriate touching, but some parents have come out and said that he was accused of inappropriate touching. This report that I'm having in front of my eyes are saying other matters, classroom management, professional judgment. I guess that would classify as that. But an internal investigation found no evidence of improper behavior with the students. So I do want to put that information out there that the school said no. Now, got to take what the school says at face value. Maybe they're trying to save face now, or maybe that's the truth. But apparently he resigned from the school district in Texas and eventually made his way to Arkansas. His family lives in Oklahoma. Now, he has worked numerous teaching jobs in Oklahoma. One, Broken Arrow, worked for the Broken Arrow School District, and also a substitute teacher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. One thing I will say, though, is state police have made a mistake in this case when they first identified him. When they first identified him, they put out his name as James Andrew McGann. That had me scrambling all around trying to find a James Andrew McGann. I couldn't find anyone. But lo and behold, it's actually Andrew James McGann. That's his real name, Andrew. His first name's Andrew, middle name James. Now, he very well could have gave police his name as James Andrew to try to conceal, because it seems like there is a lot of denominations of names out there that he have used. He calls himself Drew. He calls himself Andrew J. But this creep, this monster, Devil's Den, the devil fits this guy's right here. This guy is possessed. He looks evil, demonic, crazy, psycho. And as you heard from law enforcement, it doesn't seem like there was interactions between the victims and him prior. Arguments, hey, you stepped on my shoes, any beef. They didn't know each other. It was just a straight up random attack, which is scary to the core, folks, because this could have been any one of us. You have children out there, this could have been anybody. Just walking a trail, minding their business. And imagine a monster. Reminds me of Brian Kohlberger, Moscow, Idaho, going into a home in the middle of the night and killing 4 college students, which police later said no connection whatsoever between Kohlberger and any of the victims. Seems like that's the case here too. No connection whatsoever. Just a random guy out there, whatever's going through his mind, what's going through his mind. I don't even know what's going through his mind. What would compel pure evil to literally stab? Now it's stabbing too. There was some conflicting information. Some of the media there was putting out that it was a shooting. We saw posts by family members that were saying stabbing. Some of the media were saying shooting, but they said a stabbing. But what would get some crazy wackadoodle just jump out of the woods and just stab a random person? Who does that? That's like animalistic stuff. That's like animals just waiting and preying on another animal. It's crazy. It's monsters. Now, also, folks, we got to do some sleuthing here and find out if there's any unsolved stabbings or murders in these particular areas where he used to reside. And I think they're actually looking into that, the way I heard it, looking into unsolved crimes. Because do you think this guy never did this before? He doesn't have a criminal record, doesn't have a social media presence. There was a dating site. He was on a dating site trying to find a female. But what got him to do this? What got him to do this crime? Now, he has court tomorrow. I'm assuming that there will be a press conference or video feed, something with his court hearing tomorrow. Maybe we'll get more. And then also, folks, affidavit of probable cause. That's what we're waiting for too. So still some unanswered questions, though I feel this is case closed. This guy would be an idiot to go to trial, probably end up spending the rest of his life in prison, probably in a situation where if the death penalty gets taken off the table, he spends the rest of his life in prison. All right. So I appreciate everyone that was on today. Not much more information to share out. It's good to hear an update. Kudos to law enforcement for getting this evil monster off the street. Took them a few days. You can run, but you can't hide. They will find you. We live in an Orwellian society with so much resources and technology. And when you have a major case, you get all those law enforcement agencies to collaborate and work together. They will find the killer. You can't get away with it nowadays on new crimes. It's very, very hard. You can't get away with it. They will find you. All right, folks, we cover true crime 24/7, 365. Magnolia and JLR investigates. Thanks, everyone watching. If anything else breaks about this case, you will for sure hear it here on JLR Investigates. We've got to talk about a manhunt in Tennessee, so we'll be back later with the Tennessee. There's a madman on the loose, killed 4 people. It never stops, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon. JLR Investigates.